I'm Angela Yee, and I'm a radio host and an entrepreneur. When I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to be in life. I went to college, I was an English major. Ever since I was in first grade, I always told myself I'm gonna be a writer when I get older. So when I graduated from college, I'm sure we all know like being a writer is not very lucrative at first until you get the big deals and big situations. So I was offered an opportunity to work for Wu-Tang. That was my first job in the business. I was assistant to the CEO. It was just a series of jobs doing marketing. That was really my forte. I was working for Eminem's clothing line. And after that job, I saw that there was an opening for marketing at Sirius Satellite Radio. So I hit up Eminem's manager, Paul Rosenberg, and I asked him, can you just get me an interview? Like, I don't need you to get me the job. So I said, just get my foot in the door and I'll take it from there. And he was like, you know what, would you like to try to be on air? We're looking for a woman on the morning show to work with Cypher Sounds. And it really just happened. I know a lot of people might watch and think or listen and think it's easy, but it's really hard. Just even being on the air and making sure that you kind of establish a rhythm, also being knowledgeable about what's going on. It's really challenging to start your personal brand just because you have to be really cautious about everything that you do, but then you don't want to be overly cautious at the same time. Like, you still want to be yourself, but you also don't ever want to make a little mistake and misrepresent yourself. It's so hard being a woman in media, and being a black woman is even harder because in the beginning of my career, it was always, oh, you'll be a great co-host. They never look at you like, oh, you'll be great to have your own show. And then the other difficulty is just networking. Like, we'll have guests come on the show, and then afterward, if Charlamagne and Envy are like, oh, let's exchange information, it's cool. But as a woman, if you're like, oh, you know what, I'm doing this thing, I would love to get your info, they're like, oh yeah, you know she's trying to hit, and it's just perceived differently. I decided to open up a juice bar in Brooklyn just because I had been watching what Styles P did, what Jadakiss did with their Juices for Life brand in the Bronx and in Yonkers, and I just wanted to bring something like that to Brooklyn. I learned a lot about juicing. I learned about going to juice bars where a lot of stuff was pureed and sugary drinks that they add and all kinds of things that aren't even good for you. But I didn't know that. I just thought, I'm going to get a strawberry banana smoothie, it's gotta be good. And a lot of people think that way until you realize, okay, it's pureed strawberries and they add all this honey and they add all this sugar and it's not good for you. I saw how they did their juice bar, and I love the fact that they were bringing together hip hop and health, which is something I think we need to do. We see a lot of people suffering from different ailments in the hip hop business, in the hip hop industry, and there's discussions that have to be had about making sure that we set a better example for kids. There's a lot of things that we grew up doing that are so not good for us. The most challenging part about starting the juice bar is having to hire employees. Because it's such a turnover rate. I mean, I think there's only one person that still works there, Al, from when we first opened. Everybody else has been like turnover, whether they quit and go somewhere else, whether we have to fire them because they're late all the time, they're rude to customers. It's just something that you can't ever predict because you can't control how other people act. My definition of a pioneer is somebody who is willing to take a risk. I think a lot of times we get so comfortable in the space that we're in, and pioneers are the people that see a need and go and fill that need. So that's what we need more of. There's so many people I consider to be pioneers, but what I really love are people that don't have to do what they do, especially artists. Artists that actually get involved with civil rights and there's no necessity for them to do that. There's a lot of artists that are like, okay, I'm not gonna mix politics and music, or I'm not gonna mix politics and comedy, or politics and acting, but people who have a platform and aren't scared to use their voice, even if it means that certain people aren't gonna like them or support them, I think that's important. Somebody like Harry Belafonte, who we just did the Change for Change radiothon with. You know, he was somebody that was a huge, huge artist that crossed over all different kinds of genres. But he said, you know what, I'm taking my money and I'm funding all these different movements. And he didn't have to do that. History by us, to me, is something that is ever evolving. Every single day we're making history. So that means that we're thinking not just of ourselves, but what's gonna happen for the next generation. That means we're thinking about things like climate change, we're thinking about things like healthcare, we're thinking about things like immigration, and that's history by us, because history is what got us to where we are now, but right now we're making history for the next generation.